Nicholas Nassim Taleb holds a mirror to himself for some much-needed self-reflection. Intellectual yet idiot, semi-erudite bureaucrat who thinks he is an erudite, pathologizes others for doing things he doesn't understand, not realizing it is his understanding that may be limited, imparts normative ideas to others, thinks people should act according to their best interests, and he knows their interests, particularly if they are uneducated rednecks or English a non-crisp vowel class. More socially, subscribes to The New Yorker, never curses on Twitter, speaks of equality of races and economic equality but never went out drinking with a minority cab driver, has considered voting for Tony Blair, has attended more than one TEDx talks and watched more than 2 TED Talks, will vote for Hillary Monsanto Malmason because she seems electable, has the black swan on his shelves but mistakes absence of evidence for evidence of absence, is member of a club to get traveling privileges. If social scientist uses statistics without knowing how they are derived, when in the UK goes to literary festivals, drinks red wine with steak, never white, used to believe that fat was harmful and has now completely reversed, takes statins because his doctor told him so, fails to understand ergodicity and when explained forgets about it soon later, doesn't use Yiddish words, studies grammar before speaking a language, has a cousin who worked with someone who knows the Queen, has never read Frederick Dard, Michael Oakeshott, John Gray, or Joseph de Maistre, has never gotten drunk with Russians and went breaking glasses, doesn't know the difference between Hecate and Hecuba, doesn't know that there is no difference between pseudo-intellectual and intellectual, has mentioned quantum mechanics at least twice in the past 5 years, knows at any point in time what his words or actions are doing to his reputation. But a much easier marker, doesn't deadlift. The first step in not being a semi-intellectual blowhard is to recognize you are one, so this I think is an improvement on Taleb's part, in recognizing his own problem. Has mentioned quantum mechanics at least twice in the past 5 years. I guess that would include most physicists, but again, Taleb is smarter than them, because black swans. Intellectual yet idiot, semi-erudite bureaucrat who thinks he is an erudite. And also creates strawmen and misconstructions of experts, bullies experts and scientists who are smarter and or more knowledgeable than him, sells overpriced and useless mini-certificates, and is thin-skinned and cannot take criticism. Here's another example of Taleb's pseudo-intellectual sophistry. As someone who identifies with NRX, I agree to some extent with this, but an argument against democracy, racial blindness, welfare liberalism, and egalitarianism, is not necessarily an endorsement of an absolutist Catholic monarchy or an endorsement of Taleb. Some, such as myself, favor something different, maybe Protestantism, secession, turning back the dial to before the 60s, or a non-theistic techno-oligarchy of sorts, but find common ground in opposing democracy and egalitarianism. It's possible to have technological progress, while eschewing democracy, as in the case of Thiel and others. But one problem I have with Taleb, and to some extent with NRX and the alt-right, is the tendency to advocate populist ideas, such as being anti-Fed, anti-establishment, anti-academia, anti-centralization, anti-Wall Street, anti-globalization, pro-Brexit, etc., while being anti-democracy and advocating elitism. It's kinda like copying the Sanders OWS economic platform, the Ron Paul foreign policy platform, and calling yourself right-wing or elitist. You cannot have it both ways. Or maybe the hope is that the left's version of elitism will be replaced by a right-wing version of elitism, or something like that. Another problem with Catholicism is whole the sanctity of life thing, which proscribes programs that could be beneficial like eugenics. I lean neoconservative on economics and foreign policy, while opposing things like democracy, egalitarianism, and feminism. Neoconservatism is shamelessly elitist, logically consistent, consequentialist, and right-wing. The neocon brand was hurt by conservative in the aftermath of the Bush administration, but many neocons and alt-right agree on the threat to civilization posed by Islam, for example.